Figured I might as well jump on this bandwagon because I talked about all these movies on my first channel and I grew up with them. So, the first real trailer for this Harry Potter Reboot TV show came out, and I do think that it looks good, but I kind of have my reservations about it. No, I'm not one of those people that is like, oh, this is crap, or I just have too much nostalgia for the original film series, okay? The original film series has its problems, you know, such as the directors changing right in the middle, Goblet of Fire really standing out as the black sheep of the franchise, and, the producers giving Emma Watson a lot of importance over Ron. You know, all of those things are... Sorry, the battery's almost dying on this. All of those things are flaws that the original movies had. Okay? Come on, get in there. Right, so having this be a TV show is actually the next logical step for adapting these young adult book series, because having seen the big boom and decline of trying to adapt all of these young adult book series, let's think about how many of these movie franchises actually finished. Off the top of my head, the only ones I can think of are Harry Potter, Twilight, the original group of Hunger Games books, The Maze Runner, if you don't count the two prequel books, which most people don't, and this one is a big if. Arguably Divergent, because I've heard a few people say that the cancelled fourth movie would have actually been kind of original. I wouldn't know, I've only read the first book and watched the first movie, so I can't attest to that. But those four are really the only ones that I can think of. All of the rest, except Divergent, they only ever got one or two movies in. And, yeah, so it's been clear that adapting these young adult books into movies just isn't going to happen. It's better to do it as a TV show because the strength of Harry Potter books is just the dialogue, the simple things going on between the cast, the building up. That's something that the movies didn't have the greatest amount of opportunity to do, even though Columbus did a great job of doing said building up, and Alfonso took a risk with bringing the Dementors from a background element to the forefront, and in my mind it really paid off. So, yeah, it can be done, but it's a lot harder. Adapting these things as a TV show actually makes sense, even though there is some dispute as to how good it can really work as a TV show, because like Mortal Instruments of whatever, that show only lasted one season, but probably that was because they made it so often, so soon after the original movie that it got canned. And then Alex Rider, it seems like people enjoy it as its own thing, but as adaptations of the book, it doesn't seem to be doing so well. Yeah. This, on the other hand, it's going to be a lot more interesting to see how that pays off, in my mind. So I'm actually looking at this with a fresh mind, hoping that it does well, and yeah. I have heard, thankfully, that the people behind the show are working to film as much of it as they can back to back in order to, one, get it out to the fans and also combat the characters aging. But here's the thing, they do have to age a little bit, because let's think about the series of unfortunate events TV show. Oh, I completely forgot about that because they actually did manage to adapt all of them. Ugh, silly me, I read all those books within 1 year when I was younger. I was aware of them as they were being released, but I never sat and read them all the way through. So, from what I remember of the books, broadly speaking, if you're really paying attention, it would appear that minus the epilogue, the entire 13-book series takes place over the course of, let's call it a year and a half, because there's only one birthday per kid in that whole thing. Yeah. And they filmed that TV show over the course of 2 to 3 years-ish. Smart. They were able to get them all out there, and it did good. But the Harry Potter books, they take place over 7 years, minus the epilogue, and you really do need that cast to age as it goes along, because the kid that's playing Harry Potter in this new show, okay, he does look a lot like a young Daniel Radcliffe. Not exactly, he's a little more baby-faced than Daniel was in the first movie, but I buy that he can act as a young Harry Potter. There, the young Ron, perfectly fits. Young Hermione looks a tad bit different, but I think in her case, that'll probably help rather than hurt her, and it seems like that there's a lot of hype around her, both for good and bad. So we'll see how that works. But what I'm getting at is that they do need to age them so that they can really feel like that the character has matured over time. Because Daniel in the Columbus movies behaves totally different than what we saw him behave in the David Yates movies, both because Daniel's grown up and because Harry has grown up. And that's fine. The Harry in the first couple of movies, childish, exploring the world around him, learning more about his past. Then as the series goes on, even though this is different than the books, he gets more and more pessimistic, starting to have a little bit of doubt in there, but knowing that he's stuck in this situation and that the right thing to do is to see it through, because the only other choice is to hide and then have everyone else suffer because of that. He knew he wasn't going to do that, even when he had the prime opportunity in Deathly Hallows, as the Part 1 scene that wasn't in the book demonstrates, where Hermione subtly hints that they could just stay there, but he's like, no, we can't do that, even though he had every reason to do it. So I do hope that they age them appropriately, but I can't help but think that unless this show does rather spectacularly, what's going to end up happening is that the more it gets renewed, the less money that they're going to give it. Whereas when it came to the movies, as long as they were going to bring in a lot of cash, which everyone knew that they would, it was basically, as long as it isn't a flop, you're going to get all the money that you need for these things. I can't help but think that because this is a TV show, there's going to end up being more pressure and more restricted funds as this goes along, which is literally the worst thing that could happen, because the later movies, they really are going to need more money for those fight scenes. The first couple of movies have demonstrated that you can actually do the fight scenes and not have the greatest amount of budget, because my dad, he keeps complaining that the first Harry Potter movie had special effects that were worse than the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I don't know, I never had a problem with the first Harry Potter movie. It was simplistic for a reason, you know. Right. So that's most of my thoughts on this. I might as well address the elephant in the room that people are talking about right now. Snape being a black person. I do think that it is kind of off-putting, but here's the thing. There is a very convenient loophole that production can use, which they without question are not going to use, even though it is laid out for them, that could justify this. Because here's the thing, okay? People forget that in universe, these books are supposed to take place in the 90s, okay? So if you rewind the tape, this means that, owing to the fact that Lily and James ended up getting married and having Harry within a couple of years after finishing school, okay, this means that they all went to school in either late 60s or for most of the 70s, okay? Now, granted, okay, I live in America, okay, contrary to what a lot of you might think, because you never read my bio, even though it's one sentence, but I live in America, and all of the bans on interracial marriage were tossed at the end of the 60s, okay? But when the interracial marriage bans were tossed, unlike when gay marriage bans were tossed, support for interracial marriage wasn't that high. In fact, it was the minority that supported interracial marriage. Over the following decades, support has really shot up, but at the time that Lily and James went to school, even though, again, I'm talking about America here, not the UK, support for interracial marriage was in the minority, yeah. So having Snape be black actually adds an added layer to the dynamic between him and Lily. He can't be with her because society doesn't allow for it, even though I'd be willing to bet that in the UK, support for interracial marriage was more than America, but only like a run or two higher, you know? It was not, oh my god, in favor of it. No. But again, the producers are not going to go for that, but if they're smart about it, they would. Right. But there's also one other merit to this black guy being Snape, okay? You've probably already forgotten this, but I have said that in the in-universe chronologically, okay, Lily and James got married and had Harry within a few years of them finishing at Hogwarts. So, and since Snape is in the same year that they were, this means that by the time Harry starts at Hogwarts, Snape is someplace in his early 30s at the beginning of the books, and then is in his late 30s at the end of the books. Now, I love Alan Rickman as Snape, okay, but even in the first movie, you look at him, he does not give the attitude and appearance of portraying somebody that is in their 30s. At minimum, he has to be in his 40s. It's just that he was so good as Snape, everybody forgave the difference in age. People pointed out in comments that I found randomly, Alan Rickman was way too old to portray Snape, and yet I can't imagine anyone else portraying him. Shows that people are using their noggin. Well, this black guy, he looks exactly like somebody who's in his 30s. So, as much as I hate to admit it, other than skin color, he's actually a much better portrayal of Snape, even though I don't think they're going to have him do his hair like Snape. But yeah, there is some merit to this, even though, again, the second detail is very easy to miss, and the first one the producers are not going to use. But I wanted to throw that out there. All the other cast people, of course they're going to look and sound different. What do you expect? As Daniel Radcliffe said when he was talking to Stephen Colbert, I've seen 3 different Spider-Mans in my life, and I can't even tell you how many Sherlock Holmeses. They all look different. This is just one more adaptation. But I will say this, because I do everything I can to not watch current TV shows, because far too many of them get cancelled on cliffhangers, I'm probably not going to end up watching this until I am literally years behind, like I am with the Marvel and DC movies. Well, that went longer than I expected. Guess I had a lot to say. See ya.